Chapter 5, Lesson 4 is about the distributive property. And so your learning target today is I can use the distributive property to simplify expressions. All right, let's get started. So the key concept here is in order to multiply a group that is being added or subtracted, we can just multiply the number outside the parentheses by the number inside the parentheses. And I know that doesn't necessarily make sense right away. We'll write it out and then we'll reread it, and I think it'll make more sense. So in symbols, if we had a number A multiplied by a group of B plus C, right? Now we know in order to solve these types of problems, what we have to do is add B plus C and then multiply by A based on the rules of PEMDAS. But what we can actually do is we can multiply A times B and add that to A times C. Okay, and it's kind of like a rainbow effect here. We take the A to the B, and then we take the A to the C, and that's how it works. So we get AB plus AC. And if we give an example with this, we could say 3 times 2 plus 4. Well, we know that's going to be 6 times 3 is 18, right? Well, let's check it out. 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 4 is 12. And voila, we get 18 again. How cool is that? So the subtraction way is the same exact thing. If we had A times B minus C, that would just be, again, rainbow effect here, AB minus AC, and again, 3, and I'm going to switch these around, say 3 times 4 minus 2. We know that's going to be 2 times 3 is 6. We have 3 times 4 is 12, and 3 times 2 is 6, so minus 6, and again, we get 6. How cool is that? I'm just so happy. So now if we reread through that key concept here, it says in order to multiply a group that is being added or subtracted, so these being added or subtracted, we can just multiply the number outside the parentheses by each number inside the parentheses. Okay, I think that makes a little more sense. All right, so on to the example. We have to use the distributive property, which is what that is called, to evaluate 7 times negative 5 plus 3. So we have 7 times negative 5 plus 3. We have 7 times a negative 5 is a negative 35, plus 7 times 3, which is 21. Okay, now we have that simplified here, and we know that negative 35 plus a 21 is going to be a negative, since 35 is larger, and the difference between the two is 14. So we get a negative 14. Okay, some of you might have said that it would have been a little easier just to do negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2, negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. That's pretty easy as well, but it gets a little more complicated, and this is why the distributive property, this is why we use it, okay? It's for things like example 2, where we have to evaluate 4 times 8x plus a negative 3y. This now gets a little more complicated because we're using two variables. Woo! Let's try it out. Okay, so we have 4 times 8x plus a negative 3y. Okay, so again, we have to use the rainbow effect on both sides that are being added. Okay, that's the main thing you have to remember, is that it's just based on what's being added. So 4 times 8x, again, that really is just 4 times 8 times x, right? But we can do 4 times 8 first, and 4 times 8 is a 32, 32x, plus 4 times a negative 3y. Again, that's just like 4 times negative 3 times y. So 4 times negative 3 is a negative 12y. Okay, and now we have it simplified. This is completely simplified. Now if we had one value, we could go in and solve it even further. But this is all I'm expecting right here. That's it. It's simple. All right, last one. We're getting just a little bit even trickier here, is we're going to use the distributive property to evaluate 1/4 times x minus 8. We're using a fraction that's so cheap. Well, let's write it out and see how this works out. We have 1/4 times x minus 8. And we know 1/4 times x, well, we can't really do anything with that, except we do know that that would be 1/4 x, right? And then we can do 1/4 times 8. And what's 1/4 times 8? And remember, we're going to bring that subtraction sign down. Well, we know that the 4 and the 8 are just going to cancel because this is technically 8 over 1, right? This will become 1 and this will become 2. So that really is just 2. 1/4 x minus 2. And voila.